Hi, and this is Chapter 2 for Foundations of Business video lecture. Okay. So today we're going to talk about economics, money, and banking. Again, just an introduction to those because each one of those is a master's degree, in fact, certainly several semesters of classes. So if we go to the next slide, chapter offers a brief introduction to economics from a business professional's perspective, an overview of the interaction of supply and demand, and a macro view of the economy. Macro means large, so it's not an individual or a little community, it's the entire economy as a whole. An exploration of money, banking, and digital revolution known as fintech. Okay. So your learning objectives in this chapter is define economics, explain why scarcity is central to economic decision making, and identify the major ways measuring economic activity. Define economic systems and explain the government's role in a free market economy. Explain the interaction between demand and supply. Identify 4 macroeconomic issues that are essential to understanding behavior of the economy. List the 4 financial functions of money and define 2 key measures of the money supply. Explain the role of the Federal Reserve System. List the major types of banking institutions and summarize the banking role in the economy. Define fintech and discuss 5 ways the financial institutions are innovating with digital technology. Okay, so economy, sum total of all the economic activities within a given region. Okay, and you can go online and register for the Kansas City Fed's review of this area because Oklahoma is part of Kansas City's Federal Reserve. And once a month, they'll send you their economic outlook for this area. I enjoy getting it, reading it. It gives you an overview of what's going on, what has been going on. It's a little bit, it's a couple weeks dated, if not a month or 2 dated, depending on which data point you're looking at. But it gives you a review of what the economy is doing as a whole within Oklahoma, as well as the Kansas City Federal Reserve's region. Economics is the study of how a society uses its scarce resources to produce and distribute goods and services. If you wanted to go on and do that with the Federal Reserve, you just Google Kansas City Federal Reserve and it'll come up. Okay. So next one is microeconomics, which is the study of how consumers, businesses, and industries collectively determine the quantity of goods and services demanded and supplied at different prices. It's micro because it's usually at a specific industry or a specific region or a specific demographic, whereas macroeconomics is the study of the big picture issues in an economy, including competitive behavior among firms, the effect of government policies, and overall resources allocation issues. One issue that's come up this summer is unemployment and how unemployment was being demonized as being too much, so it gave people incentives to not go to work. The other side of that is because unemployment was increased by $600 a week by the federal government, in addition to whatever the state government was giving individuals who were unemployed because of COVID-19 or whatever reason they were unemployed. But the other side of the argument to that is that the unemployment wasn't too much, is that wages were too little. And if people, businesses wanted to get, or employers, I should say, not just businesses, but employers in general, wanted to get people to come back to work instead of staying on unemployment, then they should increase wages to be more than what unemployment is. Minimum wage has not been increased since 2009. Obviously, prices are much higher today than they were in 2009, and yet minimum wage has not been increased. And people will say, well, only 2% of the population makes minimum wage. And that's true. The problem is many wages are determined by minimum wage. So Walmart paying $11 an hour is because minimum wage is $7.25. If minimum wage was $15 an hour, Walmart would probably be paying $19 or $20 an hour. There are many jobs out there that are based on what minimum wage is. If you go to a Jiffy Lube or any type of quick lube, the people that are changing the oil, they get paid $2 or $3 more than minimum wage. So if minimum wage went up to $15 or $16 an hour, then their wages would go up by about the same amount. Okay? I use the numbers $15 to $16 an hour because if you look at minimum wage, what it was in 1968, and then adjust it for inflation to 2020, it would come out to right around $15.80 an hour. So in 1968, they were making the equivalent in today's dollars of $15.80, where today we're only making $7.25. So we're making less than half today of what people were making in 1968. Okay. So that's the argument for that. And that's a microeconomic issue. The macroeconomic issue, macroeconomic issue. Factors of production. Natural resources, land, forests, minerals, water, tangible assets, usable in natural state. So if you watch CNBC at all, especially early morning, they have a crawl going across the bottom of the screen. And within that crawl is commodity prices. So, for example, lumber in the forest, which you obviously get from forests, has gone from less than $400 to this morning it was $664. Okay? And that less than 400 was back in March, and now it's $664. So it's increased by more than 50%. So if your business is anything that has to do with collecting or buying lumber to run your business, or any type of wood product, then you should know that your costs for that wood product are going to go up by about 50% because that's what the commodity prices are. You need to know that because you need to know how to price your product to make up for that additional cost. Okay? Human resources, all the people that work for the organization on its behalf. Okay? So go down to the next one. Capital is the funds to finance operations of a business, as well as the physical, human-made elements used to produce goods and services. So this is your factories, your machines. For online, it's your internet, all the servers that you need, all the computers that you need to run your internet service. Those are all your capital expenditures. And then entrepreneurship is the combination of innovation, initiative, and willingness to take the risk required to operate a business. 8 out of 10 new businesses fail within the first 10 years. So you only have a 20% chance of being successful longer than 10 years, given the odds. Now, obviously, to make those better, if your parents or other family members have already started the business and you're taking it over, then that's obviously gives you much better odds of doing it. But it doesn't guarantee it, because you may not run it the way they did, or you may have to take on additional expenses if you're buying it from them, and that would increase your costs, which increases your prices, which may make your competitive advantage disappear. Knowledge experts gain through experience or association. So factors of production is knowledge, human resources, capital, and natural resources, which we just went over. Okay. Economic impact of scarcity. Scarcity is a condition of any product resource that has finite supply, which virtually everything has finite supply. There are only so many trees. There's only so many gallons of oil. There's only so many any of the natural resources that you would use. There's only so many of them. There's only so many hours in the day if you're a service business that you can do. Okay? So everything has scarcity. Opportunity cost is the value of most appealing alternative not chosen. For example, if you're watching this video, which obviously you are if you're hearing this, your opportunity cost was what was the next thing that you could have been doing instead of doing this. That's your opportunity cost. So if you could be sleeping instead of doing this, then your opportunity cost is you lost some sleep. If you could have gone out and worked instead of doing this, then your opportunity cost is the loss of the income that you would have received if you'd have worked instead of watching this. Okay? Economic indicators, statistics that measure the performance of the economy, and leading and lagging. So one of those economic activities, I want to get to this before my time runs out, which I don't have a whole lot more time left. Seems like these times go very quickly. Is the JOLT report. So the JOLT report, it stands for Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. So JOLTS, actually, it's plural. And that comes out once a month. And it says how many job openings there are and how many people left their job either voluntarily or involuntarily the previous month. And that gives you an economic indicator of how the job market is. Because voluntarily leaving your job means that you probably think that you can find another job fairly easily, or you already have one, which would be the best way of doing it, is that you already have one. Okay. Of course, it's involuntary. Then it also gives an indicator of how many companies are laying off people. Okay, so job opening and turnover in July, scheduled to be released September 9th. Okay, so we should have had one that just came out not too long ago. And JOLT statement estimates. So go away. So here's a detail of what JOLTS is, and then the models that they use. There's all the mathematical formulas that are used to determine what JOLTS is and how they what the factors that determine JOLT. Okay, and then research estimates are now available. Question and answers. That's news releases. Let's go on the news releases. Current technical significance. There we go. This is what I was looking for. So this is the latest one. There it is. So let me move this little box over here so we can see it. So if we look at this, okay, so job openings. On the last business day of June, the number of job openings increased 5.9 million. Okay, that's an increase of 518,000 from the month before. So the last day of June, June 30th, there were 5.9 million job openings in the United States. It's for the whole country. Okay. The rate was little changed at 4.1%. Okay, so that 5.9 represents 4.1% of all the jobs in the United States. Okay, there's only about 160 million jobs in the United States, even though our population is 331 million. Okay, only about 160 million people actually work full time, or even part time, that aren't students. Okay. Job openings rose. Largest increase was in food and service and accommodations. So hotels, food and services, basically. Other services, 69,000. Arts and entertainment, recreation was 34,000. Job openings decreased in construction. So that means the boom in housing actually is decreasing. Okay? They're no longer hiring new people, they're laying off people by 70,000. And in state and local government education, it went down by 26,000. So they laid off a lot of government employees, including teachers, the way it looks. And the number of job openings increased in the Northeast and Midwest regions. And you see table 1. Okay, so hires goes through that. The number of hires decreased to 6.7 million. That's down almost at over 500,000 people. The second highest level in series history. Okay. And then you get down to separations. Separations are people who quit, laid off, or discharged. That means fired. Or other separations. Could be retirement or something like that. Total separations. I keep looking over here to see my clock. Okay. And I'm out of time. So if you go onto this page, you can go through this in much more detail and see exactly what's going on with it. Once you do that each month, after 3, 4, 5 months, you get to see what the trend is, and then you can start anticipating how the economy is doing, which if you're a business manager, then you can start determining how your new business should go. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day.